and he's in trouble. He's going to run. He's going to get the first down.
Don't sleep on those legs. Oh, he faked the slide. Sauce time. The Pitt Panthers have pulled a stunning upset over the West Virginia Mountaineers.
And Johnny Majors gets a ride across the field.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simplify. I'm your host, Zach Kaminsky. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Kent Vanderwood. How we doing tonight, Kent?
Doing great, Zach. Good night for a pod.
Always a good night when the Big East comes back. Joining us tonight is our special guest, as Mason can't make it this week, is Jawn Rothstein of the QB Draw podcast, fellow Flipping the Field Air Force colonel and direct subsidiary of Big Ten Ryan and his Twitter wars. How are we doing from Texas tonight?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me. Would have loved to be joined by my co-host Ez, but he's battling on the front lines up near Canada right now. Some border crisis or something. So he's up there. I believe he's shading it with something like he's working at a summer camp. But anyway, I hope he's doing well. But I'm excited to talk football again. You know, it's getting to be the dog days of summer, and it's time to start getting ready to start hearing the popping of the pads in a little bit.
And it is interesting that Ez would say that he's working for a summer camp. That's a very interesting way to put an ICE detention center on the Canadian border.
Yeah, the Canadian ICE detention center. He's actually he's being held there against his will.
He was rounded up with the Edmonton Oilers after they got swept by the Colorado Avalanche, and they had to be held and tortured. So as we promised last week, we are getting a Big 12 preview, but we didn't anticipate this. There is some actual news to discuss this week, and that would be the ACC finally dropped the 3-5-5 scheduling that we talked about, I believe, on episode. It's the case race episode. I don't know what number it is.
How's my audio?
Good.
It's fine.
Good, yeah.
All right, so I did lie. Mason is here, and we're ready to talk. Well, first off, Mason, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to preview the Big 12 here. Sorry for being a couple minutes late.
That's fine by me. Before we get to that, let's talk about the new ACC schedule. So we talked about this before. One of our main, I guess not concerns, but questions we had when the AC announced this was, were they going to do pods where your three permanent opponents you all played the same teams, or would it be more like a wheel or a flow chart where you had different teams playing three different permanent opponents? They chose the latter, and I really like how this worked out. Before we get into discussing the teams, I want to say, so off the top, Pitt got BC, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech. I called that. I said we're going to have Syracuse. I wouldn't mind Boston College, and I want Virginia Tech. So I got Christmas in June. But I also want to say, if you go back and listen to it, I called Clemson's 3 as well. Florida State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina State. I'm just that good.
Yeah, that's honestly pretty impressive. But I think my prediction was for Pitt. I was thinking they would kind of go with like the permanent 3 for like everybody would play the same 3. I think I had said Syracuse, Virginia Tech, and Virginia because they wanted to keep Virginia and Virginia Tech together. But so I was close too. But yeah, no, you getting both of those completely correct is pretty impressive.
I'll take 2 for 14, right?
Yeah. Some other interesting ones just off the bat, I think. Who was it? One of the teams got. Hang on, I'm looking. Duke got the whole state of North Carolina, pretty much. So they got UNC, NC State, and Wake Forest. I thought that was funny, but
well, I like that. You can't really pair them with anyone else, right?
Yeah, I don't really know who else they would be given. Who'd Georgia Tech get? Clemson, Louisville, and Wake Forest.
Okay,
Georgia Tech's a little interesting, but
you spoiled it. But I think that Georgia Tech got screwed the most.
Yeah, that's a pretty brutal schedule, especially if Wake Forest kind of hangs on and does their thing for longer. That that's pretty tough, and especially like if you're watching the recruiting boards, Louisville seems to have great momentum at the moment. That's a pretty tough draw right there. And for a program that's also in hell, which is it's just things aren't going well. They need to figure it out quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about Pitt's draw there. 3 teams that I don't know. We obviously have some history with. Everything always reverts back to the Big East, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it'll be bring some of those like we talked about on the pod before, some of those basketball rivalries in. But it's cool. I'm super stoked about VT. Kind of indifferent about Syracuse and Boston College, but I think it's 3 solid ones for the schedule every year. So worked out in the end.
I think the Boston College rivalry will have to take time to grow, but it's like you can't really ask for better teams as far as like if you want to go 2-1 or 3-0 in that group every year. It's not that hard, right?
Yeah. We did the big thing of avoiding like a Clemson. So that was really the main thing I wanted, is just to not pick Clemson for that, and we did. So it's a W.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You said you thought Georgia Tech got the worst draw. I think looking at it, I think I agree with that. I think Pitt got a pretty good deal. I'm trying to think who else. Who do you think got the easiest?
I think it's Wake Forest.
Yeah, actually.
It's Duke, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech.
Yeah, like the hardest game in that theoretically is Vatek, who the hell knows, you know? I guess if you look at like the history of the program, I guess Virginia Tech could get it back at some point, and the history at Wake Forest isn't exactly great, so maybe at some point that evens out. But getting Duke and Georgia Tech with where those programs are at, that's a huge advantage for Wake Forest, especially a Wake Forest team that's been competitive recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that Florida State also got a pretty tough one.
I was just gonna say that too. Theirs is kind of similar to Georgia Tech. Yeah, you basically trade Louisville for Miami and then Syracuse for Wake Forest, but you still get Clemson. So
I really thought that Louisville was going to get, it was going to end up being like they would get Clemson, Miami, and Louisville, and I don't even know how that would work out, but it just always seemed like, it just like those front two, like Clemson, who's obviously on top of the mountain right now. You've got Miami, who's very clearly trying to figure it out and head in the right direction. And then, also like we were kind of talking about it before we record, but like Syracuse is far from an ideal opponent. If you're traveling from just in terms of travel from Tallahassee to Syracuse is less than ideal. I'll say that.
I think it would be a lot worse if they played outside.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, which is something that I think the Flip of the Field boys talked about, just like ditching the dome and playing the triple option. And if they ever do that, like they're gonna have their way with any of the Southern teams if it gets past like October, and especially in Syracuse where it is cold up there. So yeah, I guess the dome does help in that regard, and also Florida State's got their own maintenance to do on their whole program, right? Like they're financially, they're in a pretty difficult situation right now. They're still paying Willie Taggart, and they got to figure out the head coaching situation. Norvell, I don't think is a guy that will be there for long. But if they can ever figure it out, there's no school that has better infrastructure in a lot of regards with their location between Georgia and Florida, obviously, and the resources that they have on that campus and, everything. It has the opportunity to get good again.
I don't really disagree with that. You got anything else on this? I'm kind of exhausted. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, unless you wanted to talk about, they came out with pretty much our opponents through 2026. It looks like.
There was only one thing I noticed about that where it was weird because in the first 2 years, in 23 and 24, we played North Carolina in back-to-back years. And then in 25 and 26, we had Clemson in back-to-back years. And those are the only two teams that do that. The other ones do the whole, almost like an A rotation and a B rotation.
Oh, yeah, that is a little weird.
It must have been something to make it fit with all the other changing schedules, but that's the only real...
Yeah, and it might have had something to do with, like, how this... actually, I was going to say, never mind. I was going to say maybe it has to do with how the schedule for this year was already set, and they had to basically... I don't know. It shouldn't be like that probably after that. That might just be like a one-time thing, and then it'll be A-B from there on out. But
yeah. There was actually 1 year that I forget which one it is, but I'm going to take a look at this.
It is kind of nice that we don't have to play Clemson until 2025, though.
Yeah, because that program will be potentially in hell by then, right?
We can only pray.
We can only pray that Dabo's downfall is swift and mighty.
Oh yeah, two other notes I saw. So the first time Wake Forest comes to Pitt is 2025, which is 11 years after joining the ACC. The first time we go to Finley Cooper and play North Carolina State will be in 26, and that is 12 years after joining the ACC. The 25 schedule is fucking brutal, by the way. It's Clemson, Wake Forest, Florida State if they have their stuff together, and then it's West Virginia and Notre Dame.
Oh my god! Yeah, that's pretty brutal. You're looking at that point as like, if the stars align, it could be a really tough year for Pitt.
Yeah, but hey, that's 3 years in the future. That's many episodes down the line.
We'll cross
Absolutely.
that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
We might be calling for Pat Narduzzi to be fired again. It's not out of the question.
We're fickle.
We're
fickle fans like that. I'll be
I
the
was
first
just gonna
to say
I think just about you're not a real college football fan if you're not calling for your head coach's job the first time you're down at halftime in a year, right? Like, and I can say this as an Ohio State fan who's been calling for Ryan Day's job since the moment he got it, right? Like, I think, I think that's what separates the men from the boys in this regard is like never, ever, ever being comfortable with where your program is and always thinking that it would be immediately better if you just fired a head coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the rule is you're allowed to call for their job the day after the game, but once you get to like Tuesday or Wednesday, I think then you got to reevaluate. And if you still think they need to be fired, then that's when or things are really bad. Like everybody's done it the day after. Like fire that guy, man. But then you think about it a little bit, you come back to earth.
Yeah, you get to Tuesday, Wednesday, you start searching the message boards. You hear some like droppings of like, oh well, this 4-star that we've been lightly talking to is coming to campus, and you're like, well, the future of the program, we weren't supposed to win it all this year, so we just hope that this kid can bring it. And that's when you have that dose of reality. But by about Thursday, Friday, you got to be strapping on that helmet again and ready to go to war.
Absolutely.
I think the worst I was this year when Narduzzi loses to Western Michigan. I don't think I was ready to not call for his job anymore until we beat Clemson.
Yeah.
That's fair enough, too. Like, like a loss to Western Michigan, which also, like, at the time, you didn't necessarily realize, like, the full implications of it, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you lose to a MAC school, it's never a good thing. A directional Michigan school, too. It's just, it's tough.
Yeah.
But
that one definitely marinated because of those implications that you said. Like you look back at that season, and if that's a win, things are way different. You talk about like, bias here, but possibly being a playoff team. So that one definitely, the more we won, it almost made it worse until we got to kind of tipping point where we beat Clemson.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what?
And,
We were
and
just
like,
being. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, like, and just looking back at that schedule too, like, there were definitely some moments there where it's like, man, this could have been a playoff team. And I remember there being a legit conversation about it, right? Because if you look at the schedule, right, you beat what ended up being a decent to good Tennessee team right off the jump. You lose to Western Michigan, and then you don't really play anybody of note really till Virginia Tech ish, and then Clemson. So it's a full like 3 weeks that you had to really kind of stew over those feelings.
Yep.
Oh, I was gonna say we lost that game so we could let Cincy into the playoff. We were just being gentlemen this year.
It was very kind of you. Yeah, absolutely.
We're growing the sport.
Yes, growing the game. This is the official podcast of Live College Football, the LIV Tour.
We walked so Cincinnati could run.
Yeah, we're just growing the game. The Growing the Game initiative, because not enough people have access to college football in the United States. So we're happy for the folks of Cincinnati.
After all these years, they finally got college football backed by Saudi oil money.
Yes, absolutely. We need more of it. You know, I'll tell you what, if that Saudi oil money could guarantee an Ohio State victory over like in Alabama at some point, you know, I'm open to it. I'll be honest.
You might have to invite a couple of journalists over to your home, but
yeah, the journalist one, Patrick Mayhorn, is welcome anytime he'd like. Ohio State fanboy himself. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. With that, let's get into some Big 12 football. All right, everybody, welcome to Langley, Virginia. We're all CIA field operatives, graduates of Texas Tech, coming from oil money, and it's time to preview our favorite conference in the world. That's right, the Big 12. I don't know, fuck it. It's time for the Big 12 preview. It's going to go the same as last time. I've got 5 tiers of teams for the Big 10. Like always, we'll start from the bottom, make our way up. We're going to start this year's preview in the basement with Kansas. So I'm not ready to like put this take out there solidly, but I think I'm going to squat on it for a little bit, as I think Kansas might not be the worst team in the Big 12 this year. I'm not saying they're going to go bowling or like will be in the conference title race, but they have a lot of returning production as far as players coming back. They have 9 guys coming back on offense and 7 on defense, including their quarterback, Jalen Daniels, their running back, Devin Neal, and they brought in another running back from Minnesota. This year, you're going to see more production. You're going to need to see more production from the O-line and the receiving core. But that running attack under Lance Leipold is like deadly. That's how he made a name for himself in Buffalo and at Wisconsin Whitewater, the D3 school he was at before this. And like his staff, by the way, his OC and DC have been with him since his time at Whitewater through Buffalo. Like they've just made a team that's like they're gonna be annoying to play, or like everyone's gonna hate playing them, kind of like Army or Navy, because they're gonna run the ball at you and they're gonna make you miserable. Like no one likes going into a game where you just get run at 40 times a game, and if it starts working, you get mad really, really fast. Obviously, last season stunk for them. Besides the Texas upset, but you kind of saw like what they were able to do. Like once they got that Texas upset and they put up 47 in that game, I think. They only the last 2 weeks of the season after that were both losses, but they were only 1-score losses. So they're starting to get back onto their feet after being beaten in the fraternity basement in Lawrence, Kansas for a while. I don't know. Check back in a couple years. Maybe they'll go bowling. Does anyone have any really strong thoughts on Kansas?
I mean, just looking at their schedule, right? Like they potentially have like two non-conference wins. Like they've got Duke and Tennessee Tech on the schedule, which, both at home. Like, that's a pretty solid start. Like, if for a team that was itching for wins last year, like, those are the two games in the first 4 weeks. Like, you could be looking at a 2-2 Kansas, and don't let them get hot, I guess.
Don't let the Jayhawks get hot.
No, I don't really have any strong takes, but I do like what you said about their run attack. Very like anti Big 12 with all the kind of air raid stuff that they usually have going. So that definitely could play because we know how the Big 12 defenses can be too against the run.
Yeah, they're going to be that like offensive curveball until like Cincinnati shows up and like BYU shows up.
Yeah, like you're going to be like air raid, air raid, air raid. Oh, they're going to run the ball, 30, 40 times a game. We haven't played that yet. So that could just catch somebody off guard and they'll, get that Texas win, like you said, or something like that.
If they beat Texas 2 years in a row, that would be fucking awesome. I mean, yeah, I think they're a trap game for somebody. I don't know who yet, but they're a trap game for somebody.
No, I was just going to say, like, they won the basketball national championship and their football team is just so bad. I feel like they should be able to recruit better there, you would think, but their football team's just bad. My only Kansas football memory, whenever I think of Kansas football, I just think of that game where they refused to shake Baker Mayfield's hand.
Yep.
And he just dropped his nuts on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. When I see the Jayhawk red and blue, I think basketball, and then my immediate next thought is Baker Mayfield grabbing his nuts on the sideline.
That was just an incredible, the peak of the cult of Baker Mayfield, right there. That, or one of his epic bro moments in a press conference in Cleveland. Like, that's what it comes down to. I guess one thing I'll say for Kansas is, like, I would love to call it a trap game, but you can't call it a trap game anymore. But if they beat Texas again, like, that would be the funniest thing on the planet.
We'll get to Texas later, but I want to see their schedule. What games? It's TCU at home, Baylor at home, and sandwiched in the middle is a trip to Kansas.
Trip to Oklahoma.
No, it goes TCU at home, at Kansas, home versus Baylor for Texas.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about because Kansas' schedule is TCU at Oklahoma and then away at Baylor. Like, I was just gonna say that's a pretty brutal stretch for our Jayhawks.
Yeah, our official Big 12 team, but fuck it, we'll call it now. Trap game for Texas, second last week of the season.
Lock it in.
Let's move on to the other team I have in the basement, and that's Iowa State. I think this team I think they're about to crater. Like, I'm positive about Kansas being in the basement because, like, they're not the usual Kansas where you're just like, well, they're gonna suck. Like, Iowa State is on a downward trajectory, and like, it's about to feel the effects of how hard it is to recruit to Ames, Iowa, is where they're
Ames, Iowa. Yep. Yeah.
So these last few classes have sucked, and like his tenure at Iowa State has been like average at best. Like, if you think that Iowa State's been like this great team for the last couple of years, you've been tricked by the college football media, because there was a 9-win season where he chokes away the title game, surrounded by like 7-6 and 7-6 seasons, and then like Matt Campbell was losing nearly fucking everyone on offense. He's losing Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, and that one good tight end. I think he wore 88. But like, I think that Iowa State, if Campbell stays there, which I think he should probably try and jump ship after this season, they're going to be the equivalent like those bad Pitt teams or like Purdue, where all they can do is pull off an upset of a team that hadn't been exposed yet.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing with Matt Campbell is I thought his stock was hot 2 years ago. I don't know how hot it's going to be moving forward. And granted, like what you talked about, right? There's natural disadvantages in recruiting to a place like Iowa State. But I feel like even then, like his recruiting versus what they've been able to accomplish on the field, like I guess in wake of what they've been able to accomplish on the field, has been pretty poor. So I guess like at one point he was probably taking a look at like either the Michigan job if Harbaugh left, or like a Texas level job. But I think those days are past us, and maybe, like you said, maybe there's a chance for him to move to another P5 school that may be a rung above Iowa State. But yeah, we're ready to chief on that Matt Campbell pack if and when it happens.
He's never had a recruiting class above 48th in the country.
Which, again, like you said, like they had a 9-win season. Like it should be fairly easy to like, and he has had this like Godfather kind of contract there. Like, he's been very vehement that he wasn't thinking of leaving, and he just didn't bother to recruit after that. So that's always a positive sign.
I guess the only job that's going to take him, like, I can't think of anyone but Nebraska, right?
Man, oh man, that Nebraska team. Wait, hold on. You guys are Pitt guys, so we can talk about this for a second. But Mark Whipple is going to be the like interim head coach at some point at Nebraska this year, right? Like that's bound to happen.
Holy shit!
It's going to happen, and Nebraska fans are going to fucking hate it.
Oh yeah. I went to a school that was coached by Mark Whipple. I'm an alumnus of University of Massachusetts, so I know Whipple ball well.
We got a minute, man.
We do. It's 30 seconds sometimes, but sometimes it's been a while. So.
I know some other Minutemen actually. So yeah.
Yeah.
All I have to say about Iowa State is that I was kind of like, I definitely fell in that media trap of like thinking that Iowa State was good until last year, and like I saw this list and kind of saw some predictions about where they would be at this year, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like what? Like how? But then you look at like all their departures, and it really does make sense. Without really bringing any new talent in, they just got a lot worse. So, I still think that Kansas is probably the worst team. I think that Iowa State might squeak a couple out. But that battle for the bottom is going to be interesting.
I kind of agree with that, where like Iowa State will be like, they won't be bottom of the barrel, but like they'll be significantly worse than like the other teams in the conference, probably.
Yeah. There'll be a gap.
Mm-hmm. I think that's it. I don't know. Run the triple. That'll work.
Always.
Let's move to tier 4, and I've titled this tier So we'll start tier 4 with Texas Tech, and I'm not really sure what to think about this. Right, like they have the number 6. They have a top 10 recruiting class right now, but it's because they have like 20 something recruits in it, and I think this is a year 0 or year 1 situation, depending on how bad you thought the Matt Wells hire was when they got away from the air raid. But more or less this year, I'm just kind of interested in what's going on. They hired a Texas football like god king to just be able to recruit 1 million Texas players every year and just kind of roll it out, see what happens. I also like they're going back to the air raid, because I think that you probably can't run anything else there, like at least some sort of like a gimmick offense. Not the air raid is gimmick, but it's like the closest real offense there is to a gimmick offense. So I'm just kind of slotting them in here until I have more data points on what they're actually going to look like.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? Like you said, like they're clearly angling toward the future, and that's what a hire like Joey McGuire gets you, right? He's only 50 years old. He's been in Texas basically since birth. So yeah, I mean, you're angling towards like a team that is trying to hopefully be competitive for year 1, 2, when Oklahoma and Texas are no longer in the equation.
Yeah, they do have their quarterback is Tyler Shuck, formerly at Oregon. I thought he was fine there. Obviously not as good as Justin Herbert, but he might do well here in a pass-heavy offense.
Yeah, they have some potential to be the guy in the next couple of years or so, but this is just going to be a very mid year for him. But good things to look forward to for Texas Tech, honestly, with the whole realignment.
Yeah, that's all we got there. So our other team in Tier 4, we don't really have a lot on Texas Tech, is it's the team down I-79. It's West Virginia. I don't really even have a lot of data points here. My only thing here is I think Neil Brown's getting fired. I truly believe that Pitt's going to win the backyard brawl by multiple scores. JT Daniels will probably get hurt some point before week 6. I'll say week 5 or something. And this team is besides Arizona State, which has the NCAA violations coming up or the sanctions coming up, they've had 15 players transfer out already to leave to new schools, and 5 are in the portal currently. And the funny thing about that is 19 of them were players that started in the roster, right? The last one is Lynn J. Dixon, who is a Clemson running back who transferred in and is now transferring out.
Yeah, that's not a good sign right there. And anytime you've got sort of that revolving door sort of operating with your roster and a coaching staff that is, we'll call it, headed toward rocky times. You're in for a real difficult situation. They have to play at Tech, at Iowa State, like we talked about, not great. They'll have to play at Texas, at Virginia Tech, which probably is a tough game for them. And like you guys said, at Pitt, to start off the season, it's they should be heading towards a coaching change, I think, at some point this year.
Also going to be really.
I will say we, as a Pitt podcast, after week 1, we are going to have to be West Virginia fans just for that. The better if we beat them by multiple scores, and then they kind of Tennessee situation like last year, and then they have a decent year, it'll look good for us. So I know there's not a lot that's going great for them, but if they can string a couple wins together, that would be great for us. So I'm going to trash them until that first week in September, and then after that, won't hate them as much.
For sure, that's a good point. If they didn't get JT Daniels, I think this team could be very, very bad. I don't think JT Daniels is going to help all that much, but it was a good pickup for them. A little surprising, but yeah, we'll see how he works out there. It's kind of like a Bo Nix situation where it's just kind of interesting to see how it'll work out. But that's pretty much all I have.
I mean, yeah, if you want to be positive about them, right? It's that JT Daniels is reuniting with his old USC offensive coordinator. They're running an air raid now. That's what everything points to that. But I don't know, man. JT Daniels is made of glass. He hasn't really had any meaningful game time in a year and a half at that point, and he couldn't beat out Stetson Bennett. So he's also terribly immobile. So any good D-line to go up against, he's going to have issues with.
Yeah, that's a great opener for our D-line week 1 against a quarterback like that. Hopefully get some numbers up before anybody else has really even played.
Kalaji Kancey needs to just go off that day. I mean, the whole D-line, but
him and Haba gonna have a big day.
Yeah.
All right. Fuck WVU. Let's move into Tier 3. I don't think these teams will be bad. They'll probably go bowling, I think. But I've named it I Don't Like Your Coach because, as you'll see, I don't like these coaches. And we'll start with TCU. TCU hired Sonny Dykes this offseason from SMU. He jumps to the opposite side of that rivalry, which I believe is they have a trophy that's a skillet, which I think is very funny. But I don't like Sonny Dykes because even though his offenses are fine. That team imploded down the stretch last year. Like, towards the midway point of the season, we thought that SMU might be, they might be like a challenger to Cincinnati in their own division in the AAC, but they lost let me pull it up. Yeah, so they start 7-0. They lose to Houston, which obviously ends up being the better team. But after that point, they lose to Memphis, they lose to SMU, they lose to Cincinnati, and then in the final week of the season, they lose to Tulsa, which is not a very good team. The quarterbacks here are kind of average. Like it's Max Duggan and Chandler Moore, if I remember correctly. Neither of them are that great. And then I can't really project their defense because they lose their top two edge rushers, and then Gary Patterson, like the defensive mastermind that's there for 20 years, is gone. Now a member of the Texas staff.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was interesting. Obviously Gary Patterson was sort of an institution at that school. So obviously they've got some learning to do this year. But like you said, not, I don't think terribly talented roster, which should present issues. And Sonny Dykes, like you said, you can't fold like you did last year. You're just not talented to win on talent alone. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I do think Chandler Morris is not very good, but I think he's fun to watch, or can be fun to watch, because he's 5'11", 190, and he can just huck the ball. Like reminiscent of like a poor man's Johnny Manziel. But yeah.
That's a good comparison. I like that.
Like the poorest guy you know's Johnny Manziel.
I don't really have a whole lot for TCU either. Going to be middle of the road. I think that's pretty easy to say. Very similar to Texas Tech, where we kind of just want to see a little bit new, see some more newer head coach. But yeah, I don't know. I can see him going to a bowl. It'll probably be were they the one that was in the Cheez-It Bowl that was awful a couple years ago? I would love to see him go back to that if we could do that.
I think the Cheez-It Bowl is a higher tiered bowl now, but if we can get TCU back to the Cheez-It Bowl, yeah, we should make that happen. We'll get on that.
For some reason, I'm pretty sure
that is trending.
Was in it. There was 3 or 4 interceptions in a row. Just nobody wanted to win the game. So any even resemblance or recreation of that would make me happy. So if we get 6 wins from TCU to get them bowling, that'd be fine by me.
I can get on that train. TCU 6 wins. We're rooting for it. But yeah, I don't have much to add to what you guys have already touched on. Pretty middle of the road team, and yeah,
they win that Cheez-It Bowl. They did win the Cheez-It Bowl. They combined for
2018.
Duke's Mayo Bowl. They could be in that one. I could see that.
The Duke's Mayo Bowl is a prestigious institution that we're not going to soil with TCU.
Wasn't
it? That game ended 10-7. By the way, the 2018 Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah, 7 interceptions.
That is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's what I need.
That's just their path to victory this year. Just 7 interceptions a game. Just constantly arm punting.
Well, listen, they're 1-0 in games where they have 7 combined interceptions between the two teams.
That is true. Those are the winning stats. Those are the takeaways right there.
People lie, numbers don't.
Grayson Muhlstein find 27 yards passing with 4 interceptions, but winning quarterback at the end of the day. That's a tone setter right there.
What a stat line. Holy shit.
He knows ball. What can we say?
Yeah, Grayson, if you're out there and you want to talk about that game, come on the pod.
Let's relive the worst day of your life.
Yeah. But you know what? You went out a goddamn champion, right?
It's true. Okay.
Man.
Yeah. let's move on to the first big kahuna of this preview. I'm putting Texas in tier 3 if I don't like your coach. And I'm going to put out, I think, my hottest take of this preview. I'm going to say Texas is going 6-6.
Wow.
I'm going to walk you through the schedule, walk you through how they're going to go 6-6. Week 1, they'll beat ULM. Week 2, they're going to get destroyed by Alabama. Week 3, they're probably going to beat UTSA. I'm not happy in picking this, but I'm also not confident in it either. I think all 3 of those are at home.
Yes, that checks. They're all at home.
Okay. Let me pull this up. I didn't have the home and away splits. So they go to Texas Tech. I'm going to pick that as a win. They're just a more talented team. They have West Virginia at home. They'll probably win that. So they're sitting at 4 and
5 and 4 and 1.
1 going into Red River. They're going to lose to Oklahoma. Then they welcome Iowa State into town. I'm going to say this is a loss because Iowa State likes to beat. Like, Texas will probably be ranked high teens, low 20s at 4-2 after an Oklahoma loss. They'll get exposed by Iowa State at home. Then they go to Oklahoma State, loss. They go to Kansas State, loss. I'm pretty high on that team. We'll talk about them later. They'll beat TCU at home. Even though it's a trap game, I'll list Kansas as a win, and then they're going to lose to Baylor at home. So I mean, you can even argue they're like going 5-7 if they find a way to goof up another game. Like, they're still so soft.
Yeah, like that UTSA game, like coming off of Alabama. I mean, I do think it should be noted, right? Like Quinn Ewers is starting this season as like a projected probably first round pick next year if all goes to plan. But like I just think the interesting thing there is he's almost starting in the position that CJ Stroud was last year, where it's like, oh, like the new kid on the block is coming in Arch Manning. And I'll be honest, I don't see a whole lot of dog in either of them. But like, it certainly, if Quinn goes 6-6, how you don't at least enter camp next year with a quarterback battle. And that, for at one point, the highest ranked recruit of all time, is pretty wild to think about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. The QB situation's definitely one to keep an eye on. Quinn. Quinn's got to be pissed. I mean, you got to stay for a few years or he might end up transferring out. It's got to be weird to like kind of feel like maybe he could be a sitting duck and he hasn't even started a game yet when he was like such a highly pursued recruit, and he goes to Texas and now Arch Manning's, already coming up behind him. So I'm sure he's not happy about that, but we'll see how he plays. And, I think how Texas does this year will have a lot to do with that. But
yeah, I mean, he's not going to have. I mean, skill position wise, like they're going to be solid, but that O line is for sure a concern, especially when you play Will Anderson in Alabama week 2, and then you end the season with Baylor, like who loves to kick the shit out of people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, like if it goes bad, how much leash do you guys think that Sark has here?
Well, so say they go 6-6. I think Sark's getting fired, right? Like, they fired Tom Herman for going 8-4.
I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, like, yeah, the precedent is there for sure. I do wonder if because Arch's camp made a big stink about, hey, we need to make sure we thank Steve Sarkisian for this. But man, oh man, I don't know if you can keep Steve Sarkisian around if 6-6, if you go 6-6 after going 5-7 at Texas with, again, like I said, the number 1 quarterback of all time, essentially playing quarterback for you.
Who are the 3 top quarterbacks of all time? Or like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
I feel like the only argument to like keeping him around, if that path that Zach mentioned does happen, is the fact that, like you said, he probably had a pretty big part in that recruit right there. So to keep Arch on board, they might want to keep him around, and then also kind of like, I don't know, as they transition into the SEC, like it's going to be, that's a hard enough transition as it is, with like if you throw like a first year guy into there, unless maybe it's somebody from the SEC, going to be tough to like go through all those changes that will occur there. But I think I'm with you guys. When you fire a coach that goes 8-4, tough to sit there with a guy at 6-6 with a lot of talent and not have the seat be a little bit hot.
that talent is like, it's nothing to sneeze at. Like Quinn Ewers, even though he's never thrown a pass, like John said, he was the top rated quarterback of all time as far as recruiting goes until Arch Manning shows up. They have Bijan Robinson, who was getting rumblings for the Heisman last year. Xavier Worthy is like an absolute stud at receiver. They have Hall, the transfer from Alabama, Isaiah Naylor from Wyoming. They're going to be electric, but like you said, the O-line is soft. Like, they're going to get bullied by other teams up front. He mentioned Bama, he mentioned Baylor, but Oklahoma State's going to kick their ass too. And like this, there's so much pressure being put on Quinn Ewers before he's even thrown one pass at the college level. And like, there are probably similar star ratings all across their defense, but it doesn't show up. Like, these players get onto campus and they turn into 2 stars. These defensive players, like, they're soft as baby shit and they can't stop a wet fart. Like, I remember watching Red River last year, and once it turned into the second quarter, they seemed uninterested in playing defense. And that happened down the stretch. Like, I believe both the Oklahoma State, Kansas, and I want to say Baylor as well were all second half comebacks by those teams against Texas. Like, and like, you let Kansas put a fucking 50 burger on you. They were terrible most of the season. Like, in my eyes, this is like a completely unserious team. And like, their alumni are fucking toddlers too. Like, they got horns down, turned into a penalty, and like, they're gonna be miserable. They're gonna be miserable in the SEC because horns down is gonna happen on every other play, and the SEC isn't gonna make it a penalty because, you know, they have no history in that conference, and they deserve every second of it.
I'll say too, one thing you mentioned about their alumni and their fan base in general just being babies. Like, I read an article today, and it was like from the USA Today site for Texas. It was talking about this great momentum that they have in recruiting, and it was in reference to a 3-star defensive lineman. Like, maybe that's what their target should be. But man, I just, you know, until Texas is back, like, there's always going to be skepticism, and you better have that shit tucked away before you get to the SEC. Because I'll tell you what, like, there ain't a whole lot of Kansases on the SEC schedule, and you can only play Vanderbilt so many times.
I mean, even with their recruiting is like top 10 every year, and they still underachieve. They should go back and hire Tom Herman again.
Probably
Rehire Tom Herman. Yeah.
If we're gonna put Trump back in office, we can put Tom Herman back on the list.
He's ready. He's ready, folks. He's ready to do it again. He's ready to be hurt again.
Folks,
yeah.
They're calling him the most wonderful Texas coach that they've ever had, and I'm proud to announce Tom Herman as my running mate for president. And the campaign slogan isn't going to be, it's not going to be MAGA. It's going to be make Texas great again.
Yeah.
MTGA.
And they're going to hire MTGA, and they're hiring Marjorie Taylor Greene as their head coach for Texas football.
Oh boy.
Oh God. Do you have anything else on this dumpster fire?
No,
Absolutely
one last
not.
thing. Texas is in the same camp as USC, and the fact that I feel like when they're good, it's good for football. Just because the history that they have. So I used to kind of root for Texas, like before I had any affiliation with college, just because I like the storyline and stuff. But ever since then, it's been kind of completely flipped on its head with all the horns down stuff and the Sam Ellinger, oh, we're back, and then they're not. So I've officially given up on Texas being good for college football because they haven't been for so long, and we're fine. But that's my last piece.
Oh, I forgot one thing to say. John, you mentioned earlier about like getting beaten by Bama really badly could affect them in later weeks. The Bama effect is a real thing. This is from an SB Nation article in 2015, looking at Bama's conference opponents before and after playing Texas. Sorry, not Texas, Alabama. These are teams that are in like the 80th percentile of like offense and defense playing before the Bama game. And they drop to the 40s, the 30s, and like the 20s after Bama. Like the post-Bama beating hangover is real.
And you know what? I'll tell you what, like you mentioned too, like that's not a good week to have UTSA coming to town. And and I don't know if UTSA or how great they're going to be, but they're going to come in piss and vinegar for that game because they are all kids who likely grew up wanting to play for the Horns and they didn't get their opportunity. So they're going to just take it out on them. So yeah, I mean, and then you go to Texas Tech and like you said, like at that point, the train could be off the rails. And like, how long can you expect a Bijan Robinson to be invested in this season, right? Like, does he go the LSU route of years past where it's like, well, we're not playing for a national championship. Might as well not get hurt before I can get drafted,
That's a good point. All right. Let's move to tier 2. There's only one team in this tier. It's my sleeper team. I'm going to say it's Kansas State. Now, the big thing about Kansas State this offseason is they got Adrian Martinez. And, everyone knows he wasn't great at Nebraska, but I think he's a much better fit at Kansas State with the offense they run because they run that North Dakota State offense where you're running QB counter, QB power. And, like, he probably also has better talent at Kansas State than he does at Nebraska. Like, he's handing off to Deuce Vaughn. And Deuce Vaughn, by the way, is one of college football's best running backs. Like, he's explosive every time he touches the ball, either on the ground or on the air. He had 6 yards per carry on 1,400 yards rushing last season, 18 touchdowns. He had 500 yards receiving at nearly 10 yards a clip for 4 scores. And then you pair that with Martinez, who at Nebraska, where they were running like a spread offense, or he wasn't really asked to run the ball a lot. He was doing it, in scramble situations. But he still put up like 500, 600 yards every year for 13 touchdowns last year, by the way. So, like, I think this run attack is going to ruin a lot of fan bases' days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, right? Yeah, like, again, another Manhattan, Kansas is not the bright lights of the big city. But I'll tell you what, they do put on a good show at Kansas State. And, yeah, like you said, like could be a sleeper team, could catch some teams off guard there.
Yeah, not to mention, I like their defense a lot. So not only did they kind of take a step up in offense, but I think their defense is pretty underrated as well, as far as Big 12 defenses go. But so something to keep an eye on there too.
Yeah, they have a nasty front seven, I will say that. I like the coach here, Chris Kleiman. It's really smart to hire a guy who had a dynasty rolling on the level below you. I am going to stop here, though, and say that the Kansas K-State rivalry being called the Sunflower Showdown, that needs to change. I get it's the state flower,
Absolutely.
but there's got to be something else there.
Yeah, we've got to come up with something better. And maybe our creative listeners can come up with something better than that. But like you said, that's pitiful. That's disgusting.
That's tough. That is, yeah. I don't know. We'll workshop it, but
we'll think of something. I don't know. My last thought is that I think that Adrian Martinez is just better Skylar Thompson, and they went 8-5, 9-4 last year, if I remember correctly.
8-5.
Yeah.
So if I look at their schedule, Kansas State 2022 football schedule.
Yeah, I got it pulled up.
So they're out of conferences: South Dakota, Missouri, and Tulane. Missouri can't stop the run, so I don't think it's out of the question to go
3-0.
Yeah. See, they go to Oklahoma to open up Big 12 play. I'll tentatively slot that as a loss. They host Texas Tech. They go to Iowa State. They go to TCU. So I'll say probably 6-1, maybe. They'll probably lose to Oklahoma State. I have them beating Kansas State. I have them beating Texas. Baylor probably lose, and then they'll beat West Virginia and Kansas. So that's 9-3. Say they steal one of Baylor, Oklahoma State, or Oklahoma. That's 10-2. I don't think it's out of the question.
Yeah, it's a damn good season. Yeah, especially for K-State. So, yeah, you love that.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's move into Tier 1. The 3 teams here are going to be the obvious title contenders. I have these kind of loosely ordered in how good I think they're going to be. So we'll start with Oklahoma State, the Cowboys. The big offseason storylines here are that their quarterback, Spencer Sanders, decides to come back for one more year, and they lost Jim Knowles to Ohio State. And they lose Jim Knowles, one of the best DCs in the game. They go, that's fine, just fucking hire Derek Mason or something. And I hear he's pretty good. Like, Derek Mason, I think I mentioned this before, or maybe off the show, but when he got fired at Vanderbilt, he was the most hotly sought-after defense coordinator in the SEC. And then he hated working at Auburn so much, he took a pay cut to come to Oklahoma State, and that defense is going to be, like, nasty. On offense, obviously Spencer Sanders comes back, but they lose Jalen Warren, who was their really, really good running back from last year. They've got some interesting players stepping up. They've got Dominic Richardson, as well as their freshman Ollie Gordon, which, early reporting says he could compete for some playing time. There's some, talent from the receiving corps, as you'd expect from pretty much any Mike Gundy team. But the X factor here is Spencer Sanders. If there was ever a time for him to take that Kenny Pickett step up and start being good, like, this is the time. Like, you don't know how long Derek Mason's going to stay here and keep that defense running. Like, this is the time to compete with OU and Baylor to try and win, I guess, their second Big 12 title, because they won it with Brandon Whedon. And then you go over the defense. Like, that front seven is still mean. Like, the front four, their D-line, is so deep and talented. Like, there are 72 career tackles for losses and 38 sacks on that D-line alone. They do lose Malcolm Rodriguez, who is their, like, all-world linebacker. So I think it's up to the front four and the secondary to prop up the linebackers while they're finding their footing. I don't think their Big 12 title window is closing, because the league is going to get easier for them as OU and Texas leave. But now is a good opportunity to kind of cement yourself as one of the new kings of this new age Big 12.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, right? It's all about how you position yourself for the future, right? And how, that Baylor rivalry, we'll call it, because that's going to be a rivalry moving forward, I think. Like, they're going to see a lot of each other. There's going to be, probably some bad blood there, because those are two teams that like to get nasty. They played a decent conference championship game. Obviously, they beat Notre Dame in the bowl game. So things are looking up for them. And again, these are guys, this is a guy in Mike Gundy and a Derek Mason who can get a lot out of guys, again, a school that does not have a lot of recruiting advantages. Though they have more money than God, it seems like they can put things together here and set themselves up for the future. And I don't think it's that crazy to say that they should be at least sniffing sort of that a bedlam game opportunity to play in the conference championship game.
Yeah, love what you guys said. Would love to see them get into the conference title, possibly win a conference title this year before you get Oklahoma out of here and Texas out of here, and it becomes we're going to call it the Mickey Mouse Big 12. Just kidding, good teams are coming in, but it feels like they've never really been able to get over that hump. And this year, the gap between like 1-3 is smaller than it has been in years past, in my opinion. So really good opportunity for them. Also important to note, I think this is the first head coach that made an appearance on our case race draft, right?
Yeah.
So shout out to Mike Gundy for at least looking and acting like he would be good in the case race.
No, wait, I had Sarkeesian.
Oh, geez.
You're right.
Well,
You're right.
that seems to be for a different reason, probably, though, right?
Oh, and Matt Campbell was on
Yeah.
some.
Matt Campbell was Isaac's first round pick, which
I don't want to do anything with Matt Campbell. Keep that freak away from me.
We actually, yeah, there's a lot of coaches in the Big 12 that were on our case race teams, actually. We got at least 4 or 5.
we've got 4 current Big 12 coaches and 1 future Big 12 coach because Holgerson's on that list. Oh, and there were no Pac-12 coaches. Makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely
That adds up.
That tracks. Let's move to another coach that was on the case race. Go listen to that episode. After this one, finish this one up. It's Oklahoma. So Brent Venables is here taking over from Lincoln Riley after he. Let's be real, he was scared of the SEC. I think that's pretty obvious. The upside here is really, really. I think it's pretty evident. Like Jeff Lebby, the former offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, has the same position here. Dylan Gabriel, I like that pairing. I really do. You have Marvin Mims coming back in the receiving room. Hopefully the O-line kind of recovers from last year, from like their kind of subpar play. I think the major concern is that Gabriel's coming off that collarbone injury he sustained against Louisville last year. And behind him is former Pitt quarterback Davis Bevel, and then the JUCO transfer, the all-name team player, everyone knows him, General Booty.
Great name, all-time name.
I don't wish injury upon Dylan Gabriel, but it would be very, very, very cool to see General Booty playing for the Oklahoma Sooners.
I was honestly very interested that Bevel got the chance to go there. I think, I know he was he a 4-star out of high school?
He was a 4-star out of high school, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, after that Peach Bowl performance, I mean, I was just surprised that he got that opportunity. But I mean, I'm happy for him, and we'll see if he ever gets the chance to take some snaps there. But it'll be interesting to see.
I doubt it.
Probably not.
I find it funny that Brent Venables, was watching that Peach Bowl, saw that tape, and was like, "Yeah, we want that guy." But
Yeah,
I mean, it would be cool if to root for a Panther over there. Also, I'm going to be rooting for Oklahoma just because they've been kind of dealing a little bit more so than us, but like with the whole recruits or players things that they lost from Lincoln Riley going over to USC.
that's true.
Just looking at like some of the tweet threads, Oklahoma fans are very funny in replying to some of the tweets that USC has put out about players and stuff. So we're brothers in arms for this year.
Yeah, we both hate USC, so yeah, we can bond over that this year. Do we think General Booty or Davis Bevel's QB2? General Booty?
Probably Bevel, because he has the physical traits. Like, I remember talking with Tony, also another guest on the pod, listen to that episode as well after this one. But like, he always said that Bevel had like the better quarterback traits, but he like didn't know the offense as well. So that's why Patty was always our quarterback too. And like the Lebby offense is a lot easier to run and understand. So
Bevel needs to learn how to move, though, dude.
that's true. Also, I think that Venables will he'll get that defense looking much better than it did under Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that's going to be their probably biggest improvement is going to be on that side of the ball with him. So yeah, and great case race pick, by the way. I was a little disappointed he didn't slip to me, but yeah, Oklahoma, I think, probably has a very good chance to win the conference again this year. Yeah. Dylan Gabriel staying healthy is a big key, though, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's the key in a nutshell, right? Is health, and obviously it's first year head coach, but I don't hate the direction that they went in. Right, he's a solid. He's proven himself more than enough as a defensive coordinator before, so I've got faith in him. But yeah, I think they should be staring like you said. Like I think the biggest game of the season, in terms of the Big 12, is going to be Bedlam, and who can come out on top between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Mm. Also, OU Baylor as well.
Oh, right, yeah. So that triumvirate right there, I guess. Yeah.
I want to circle back real quick about the whole brothers in arms against USC. So this is there was a article posted from a Twitter account, USC Trojans Wire, that Pitt is pretty much living rent free in their head. They posted an article titled "Mario Cristobal is ruining college football." Right, Pittsburgh fans? And this is about the whole $9.5 million quarterback they allegedly signed. And the tweet reads, if Pitt fans thought Lincoln Riley was ruining college football after rumors surfaced of a $3.5 million NIL deal for Jordan Addison, what about Mario Cristobal at Miami? We hate Miami too, bro.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you're not helping anybody out with that. Like, yeah, obviously, right? Miami always ruins college football, right? Like the history of college football can't be told without Miami ruining it several times, right? The '80s, the 2000s, and now here we are again, right? But yeah, I mean, like the they put together for that quarterback. I mean, it's not unfeasible to say like he might make more in college than he will in the pros, right? $9.5 million that's a fair chunk of money, right?
I don't think that's crazy at all, because think about, like, he might just never go pro.
I was just gonna say, like, if things don't pan out, right? Even if things pan out, he's a 4-star quarterback. Like, he's entering a draft class probably with definitely with Arch Manning or somebody after him that's better. You know, I mean, it's not unfeasible to see like, oh yeah, you know, this kid might top out as like a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and $9.5 million when you're picked in those rounds is a lot of money to make. But yeah, I mean, he might be the first guy to make more money in college than he does in the pros.
That's crazy. Was that a transfer that they signed, or is that a recruit out of high school?
4-star recruit out of high school.
Recruit out of high school. Yeah, he turned down supposedly 11 from UF supposedly. So that's reassuring.
Well, that's also completely different than the Jordan Addison situation, where you're getting a recruit out of school who doesn't have allegiances to another school already, whereas they tampered with Jordan Addison before the even transfer portal stuff started. So I don't even know what similarities they were trying to project there, but whatever.
Yeah, it's
fuck them.
Fuck them.
John, I think you're right, though. I looked up Matt Corral's contract. He was a 3rd round pick, right? So he goes in the 3rd round. Matt Corral's entire contract is worth $5.3 million.
Yeah, so you've got to get to a second contract for, like you said, third round pick. He's got to get to a second contract and make double that. Like, man, that's
holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, and this all relies on the fact that $9.5 million is correct, right? Like, I mean, who knows with all this shit, you know, like it's the internet. So people can lie about this shit, but if you take it at face value, right? Like $9.5 million is a lot of money for a 17-year-old kid, you know? And not that it matters to any of these programs, but that legitimately is like life-changing money, right? Like we talk about it all the time, like, oh, like, you know, life-changing money. Oh, like, you know, a kid gets a car, gets a lease of a car because he's playing at, you know, a school. But $9.5 million in cash or Bitcoin or some combination of it is enough to, I mean, you do the math on that. You'd be lucky for anybody on this call pretty much to be making $9.5 million, in the next 10 years, or beyond, right?
We'd be lucky to combine
pretty crazy
for it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
I'm just thinking back to like when I was 18 years old too. If I had $9.5 million, how heinous that would be. Like,
I would be doing reckless shit with that. Like, I think that's the thing too, is like, I don't think these people understand that they're bargaining with 17-year-olds. You could have literally handed me like $25 gift card at Chipotle at 17, and I would have done whatever you asked me to do. Like,
yeah,
that's just like the $9.5 million is so much. Like, they should have just given $9.5 million like V-Bucks on Fortnite or something like that. He probably would have taken that too. Like, I mean, to be young again, But I mean,
he was going to have all the skins.
Yeah. Well, there's another school out there. We already talked about him, but Texas was doing V-Buck ads earlier this summer, which was wild to see. But
really?
Apparently Quinn Ewers is a Fortnite guy. Yeah, I'll have to find the video and I'll send it to you guys. But he did an ad for Fortnite. Really interesting.
That kind of rocks. Do you think that there'll be an NIL deal where there'll be a player large enough and like maybe they'll have like a Twitch following before they get to college, where they'll have a deal with Epic Games or somebody and they'll get V-Bucks as a part of their like NIL deal, and they'll have to like stream?
I wouldn't be shocked, at some point if like you said, like some gaming company or streaming company doesn't get involved, right? Because it is sort of like you see athletes doing it all the time, right? Some positive, some negative, right? Shout out to Myers Leonard. But yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see some combination, or Twitch just getting involved and paying for it and saying like, hey, just get on and game for a couple hours, like between practices, and we'll pay $1 million or something like that.
Much to think about. So we're going to wrap up this list now. We're at the top, and that top team is Baylor. And listen, I'm not going to pick against the returning champs. I mean, you can do it, but I won't. Like, that's silly. I really would not recommend that you pick against the college football equivalent of Professor X.
Absolutely.
So, like, I've seen a lot of like picks kind of projecting Oklahoma to win, but I wouldn't. I think that's silly and you shouldn't do it. Like, everyone knows that Dave Aranda is probably like top 3 like defensive minds in college football right now. So already off the bat, we know that the defense is going to be electric. Like, no matter if they have lesser players, which they do because they're Baylor, they're going to be coached up so well. They're running a scheme that like is so complex and suited to their week by week matchups that it's going to be a strong suit in every game they play. And looking on offense, right? They Jerry Bohannon, who was their starting quarterback last year, who led them to the title, transferred out because Blake Shapen was picked as the starter during spring camp, so he transferred out a couple days later. I think like it's pretty interesting because Jerry Bohannon really wasn't all that great last year. Like, he had some Josh Rosen style stat lines. So if Blake Shapen is better than Bohannon, like, he already is making this offense better. The real, like, past that, the concerns are like what they're doing at their skill positions, because they lose their running back and like their top pass catching targets are all tight ends. On the defense side of the ball, to name some players, they have a nose tackle whose name is Sayeka Ika, and a defensive end, Jackson Player from Tulsa, as well as Dylan Doyle at linebacker. He didn't transfer, and he's another Baylor player. But that, with Doyle, they're just combined 87 games of experience at linebacker. So this front seven can really hold up, even if they're going to have some rough, like, growing pains in the secondary. But I think even so, like the Jeff Grimes offense is super easy to run. It gets a lot of great runs going, and I'm very excited for week 2 because they're playing at BYU. Not only is that a good like preview for the future of the conference, but I think these are going to be 2 really good teams. So we're going to have like a heavyweight matchup in week 2.
Yep, that was going to be my first talking point. Was that'll be their like right away. They're getting a test, which will be a good tone setter for probably what the rest of their season will be. So I'm definitely looking forward to that game.
And I guess for the uninitiated, I'll fill you guys in on a little geography lesson. I don't know if any of you have spent a significant amount of time in the state of Texas, but one thing to keep an eye out for is anybody that would willingly spend time in Waco is not somebody who you should be messing with, right? Like that is a hellhole of a city, right? So you've got a bunch of guys that are trapped there. It really creates a situation where like the opponents don't really want to go there. You got to travel down 35. It's got a shitty airport. Not a really whole lot to do there. And you've got a bunch of guys who chose to be there playing against guys who were unwillingly brought against their will on a bus to go to Waco. It's not a good environment to enter. That's why I think I'm going to pick. It would be hard for me to pick against Baylor. They are a dog team, so we love that.
Do they still not sell alcohol within the city limits of Waco?
I was there a couple weeks ago. There's bars and stuff. I think they do have seems like they might have had a pretty strict like curfew. Because I was there for a work conference and like a bar closed at like 10 o'clock, which I thought was funky. But yeah, that might be the case.
That's crazy. I'm looking at their schedule now. They get Oklahoma State at home as well as Kansas State. Their biggest road game of the year is at Oklahoma. So other than BYU, like that's the one I think you gotta look out for.
Definitely.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Let's go Bears.
Go Bears.
Should we do some official conference winner picks?
Let's go down the line. We'll give our top 2 teams, and then let's give our championship matchup picks.
Yeah,
I'll go. I'll go Baylor, Oklahoma State. I think that to me, continuity is a big thing there. Like you said, like we've got a new quarterback, regardless of how you spin it, new head coach at Oklahoma. I think that will cost them, a coin toss in a game or 2. So I think I'll go Oklahoma State and Baylor, and I'll take Baylor to win.
Okay. I'll take the same teams. I'll take Baylor and Oklahoma State. I think that they're good enough to get back, and they both have really good coaches on both sides of the ball. I, however, am going to pick Oklahoma State to win because they have the more experienced quarterback.
Yeah, very, very similar reasoning to yours, Zach. Not exactly going out on a limb here, but I'm going to take Oklahoma as one of my teams in there. I think they'll have a little bit of a bounce back year, make it to the conference game, and then I'm going to go with Oklahoma State and Oklahoma winning it all.
Double back-to-back Bedlam.
Yes, sir.
That'd be nuts.
I will go with Oklahoma and Baylor, and I'm gonna pick Baylor to take it home again.
It's a good mix there. That's a pretty
Yeah,
good shake-up.
I think we might have all picked different
combinations for sure.
No,
yeah.
we did the same, John.
Oh, but you picked Oklahoma State to win, didn't you?
Yeah, that's true.
I picked Baylor to win. So yeah, we'll have a winner.
If you bet all 4 of our combinations as futures, you'll probably win not that much money, but one of us will be right.
One of us will be right, and you can thank us somewhere down the line.
I had to look it up. there's never been a Bedlam rematch in the Big 12 title game.
Which feels crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe this is the year.
Yeah, I feel like that's very surprising.
We didn't make our Pac-12 picks. I don't know if you want to do that quick or if you just want to leave that in the past, but
Fuck it, let's do it. I don't care. So I'll go first here. Let me scroll back up. I'll go Utah versus. I'll go UCLA. I think Chip's gonna have a good year, and I'll pick Utah to win.
there's no divisions this year, right? In Pac-12,
They like play divisions, but they're taking the top 2 teams. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Okay, I'm gonna go Utah, USC, and honestly, dude, I'm gonna go USC.
Really?
Yeah, I honestly, I could see it really going either way. I think it would be a lot for them to win it in the first year, but they got a lot of talent coming in, and Riley, and I'm gonna go with it.
I think it's going to take him a year, but I could also see that happening. So, but I'm going to go Utah and Oregon. Utah taking it all, and I think they're going to make the playoff this year.
I think I'll go. Fuck it. I'll go Oregon, UCLA. Right. I don't know. Like it's tough for me at any point to, maybe this is just hatred for Utah because of that damn Rose Bowl game. But it's tough to see them as like a favorite, and it almost kind of ruins it if they're going to conference championship games and stuff like that. Like, obviously they went last year, but them forming a powerhouse feels wrong to me. So I'll go Oregon, UCLA, and if that's the case, I'm going to pick UCLA to win the conference there.
Wow.
more and more people are saying it. It's the year of Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly is back, ladies and gentlemen.
Is it 2012 again?
He's off to make buku bucks in the NFL again.
I like the disparity in our picks.
Yeah, it made for good radio. I'll say that.
I like it. We'll do this going from now on. Good call, Mason.
Yeah, something to hold us accountable a little bit here. We got to put a stake in the ground.
I was gonna say we should note these picks down. See who does the best at the end of the season. I could also, as Mason said, it might take them a year, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it doesn't.
All right, hot take.
I was just gonna say if Lincoln gets it right year one, we could be in for some fucking trouble as like a country.
Yeah.
Our long national nightmare will only be beginning.
Oh yeah.
I think that'll do it for us tonight. Thanks for tuning in. John, I'll let you plug everything you got here.
Yeah, follow us. We're the QB Draw podcast. We're going to try and get back to doing more episodes coming up, but we're an Ohio State podcast if you're interested in that. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jawn_Iver, like Bon Iver. It's a new nickname I'm trying out. But I've really appreciated the time today, and looking forward to doing more crossover episodes in the future.
Yeah, and listen, if
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks, boys.
And if you aren't following the QB Draw on Twitter, or if you're not following them in your podcast app of choice, we'll come find you and we will say some really mean words to you.
That's correct. We love that.
Cyberbullying. It's not above us.
We're bringing it back. As always, I've been your host, Zach Kaminsky. I've been joined by my co-hosts, Kent and Mason. You can follow the podcast at SimplifiedPod on Twitter. You can find all of our handles. That would be at I'm Real Angry, at Clayson_Ming, and at Kenton_VW in the bio of the podcast Twitter. Make sure to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a review. We'd love to see that. We're going to try and open up the mailbag. So if you want to ask us a question, either DM it to us on Twitter or we'll have a post where you can reply to. Next time we talk, we'll probably be talking either Big Ten or SEC. We haven't really decided yet. And with that, we'll see you next time. Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
HTTP.